Everything's rolling? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Alright, welcome to episode 2 of Produced By Dummies. I'm going to start off by saying we are available now on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Radio Public and Breaker. I'm actually not even aware of these two, Radio Public and Breaker, but we are available on Spotify right now. There are some issues going on with the Apple Music and a couple of other platforms. It's just that it actually takes a couple of weeks to get verified on those platforms. Spotify was almost immediate, to be honest. But things like Apple Music and there's like 2 others platforms that are actually waiting to verify our podcast. So for now, we're only available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and Breaker. All of the link will be in the Instagram account and YouTube videos. So I actually want to go through... First of all, to start things off with, I want to go through some of the analytics from our podcast. Because I'm guessing you'd be curious to hear that, Gregg.
Yeah, I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, I
Let's have a look.
deliberately kept this a secret. So, obviously, we made £0 because it's we'd never got it. Actually, by the way, we're hosting this podcast from Anchor.fm. Obviously, it's not sponsored or anything, but their tools actually allow you to gain sponsorships from different companies, which is really sick. And they will actually put it all in the graph for you. So right now, obviously, it's going to say £0 and 0 cent. So 85% of people are from the United Kingdom. So that means 14%, the rest of the people, are from United States. And more specifically, from Texas. I don't know anyone from Texas. So that's a good sign, in my opinion. Do you, Gregg?
Absolutely none.
Let me see if I can just go deeper with United Kingdom. Yeah, so it just says
Does
England.
that count if anyone's on a VPN?
I don't know, actually. I don't know how it... So it just says geographic location. Probably that, to be honest.
Did you just turn on NordVPN and just listen to it in loads of different...
I did promote it through like my Instagram, like every platform that I had. Like, sorry for spamming every single platform, but it had to be done in it. So 100% of our audience are males. I don't know why females stay away from us. And then age, let me have a look. So we have 67% of our audience is 18 to 22-year-olds, and 33% are 23 to 27. I'm guessing this is like the perfect target audience in my opinion. But yeah, thank you very much for actually tuning in on the first episode. I promise things will get better here with our proper structures and better topics as well. And today we'll be talking about cameras as promised last time. And I've got on my list A7S Mark III, the new Sony Alpha A1, and Canon R5. And the R6. I'm not really keen on R6 because it's not like the flagship model from Canon, but mostly about R5. So, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start with Gregg. Out of these 3 cameras, which one do you like?
Out of the A7S III.
A7S Mark III, Canon R5, and Sony Alpha A1. Yeah.
I think I've got to go the A1, just because A7S III, not as much of a photo camera as well.
True.
And got to pick the most expensive one.
You know what, this is actually true, like, the higher the price, the better performance and better stuff you're getting from your camera, because like most of the time, even in smartphone nowadays, that's not true, because if you're looking at like Samsung Galaxy Fold, I don't think it's any better than iPhone 12, but whereas Fold is about like $2,000, and iPhone 12 right now it's about like $1,000. So with cameras, you can tell by the price how good they are. But here's my argument. One thing Alpha struggles with compared to A7S Mark III is the low light performance. And you know this, I love cameras that can do amazing in low light. So just to read out some specs, one thing stand out to me from A7S a lot is the flip out screen, something that Alpha 1 does not have, surprisingly. I don't think it's that hard to just attach a flip out screen. Do you get what I mean?
But for the flip out screen, I'm just thinking, because obviously the first marketing video they did for it was, I think the first one they put out was the photography one. And I know my experiences with using the like the A7 and the earlier models. When you're doing photography, just the normal tilt screen, I've actually come to prefer that. Because, for example, like when I'm at football and stuff, it's weird having the flip out screen here when I've gone to the 80D. But when I was using just the A7, it was a bit more natural.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But with the A7 III, because it's obviously, let's be honest, vloggers, like, that's where it's really gone heavy.
But
I think then the flip out screen comes in.
Apart from like vlogging in general, I think like I've got flip out screen on my camera, the Lumix G7. Personally, I love it because let's say I want to take a photo of flat lay photography, rather than just attaching it with like a separate screen. It's just much more convenient for me to like flip it out and look at it from an odd angle. So, or even same thing if I'm putting on a gimbal, I can't. Let's say I'm putting on a gimbal, it's on a low angle, but then I can't see what's going on if it's a flat screen or even just a tilt one. Because I don't think on the Alpha 1 the tilt goes quite high, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But
personally, I prefer flip out screen, so that's a minus from me on Alpha 1. Color science wise, sorry. Both Sonys are amazing. So is the Canon. Have you seen the difference between Canon and Sony color science, Greg?
I think it's a weird one because, to be honest, I use Canon, and I'm not that impressed as a whole about the colours. The amount of buzz that everyone puts into it, I think it's not worth the amount of people that stay on Canon just for that.
Just for that, yeah.
Like I was saying to you, I'm probably going to be switching to Sony. The A7 III, going for that just second-hand one. And from the comparisons that I've looked at, the colours doesn't look like it would be a massive deal as long as I'm going to be colour grading it anyway.
Yeah, I understand how you want the best quality from the camera, but if your camera can support flat profile, and I mean it officially, not like when you fake it, I don't really see a huge point in judging color science. Having said that, though, my Lumix G7 is horrible with the brown skin colors. Like, I've got brown color, but when I try to go on Premiere Pro and color grade it, I don't know if it's 8-bit being 8-bit, but it's just really annoying to like change colors. It's not even that it's showing brownness or something. It has inaccurate brown or yellow colors. Even if I point my camera towards something yellow, it's inaccurate. So I understand like what they mean by color science, but at the same time, these high-end cameras, I'm pretty sure you can easily just fix all the colors from your Lumetri panel or whatever software you use. Photo, when you look at it from the photo perspective, A7S Mark III isn't as great. We all know that 12 megapixel, and they only made it 12 megapixels to reduce noise from the video. So on R5, it's 45 megapixel. I think at the end of the day, it depends what you really want to use your camera for. So considering you are doing filming, right? Actually, I'm going to ask you the question. What do you do mostly? Is it filming or photography?
Well, at the moment it's filming, but that's just because non-league football's out of the picture. But for me, I wouldn't want for now, I wouldn't want to get something with low megapixels to that extent of like 15, whatever it was, just because I want to be able to have the option to do photos right now. Right, and I'm still kind of fan of what I'm going to do. But I also don't want to go for 45 megapixels because I want to kind of just stay in the mid-range. So like right now, I think I've got 24. Sony A7 III that I'll be good looking at is 24. I think it's just, for now, kind of hedging my bets. It's not terrible.
Okay. The one thing with Sony A7S Mark III is because it's video camera more than a photo one, the ISO can go up to 409,000. More specifically, 409,600. and you start losing details around 160,000 ISO, and that is a lot of room for shadows. Again, if you know me, I really love shooting in low light, and I want a camera that can handle low light performance like crazy. That's one of the things that I look for in every single camera. Alpha 1. Oh, these names are confusing, by the way. So, Sony Alpha 1, apparently their low light performance isn't the best. Like, it's amazing. It's better than R5, I'd say. But comparing that against to A7S Mark III, you'll start seeing noise as soon as you go above, like, I think, was it 120K or something like that? Do bear in mind, I haven't used this camera. This is all from, like, by watching different YouTube videos, watching official YouTube videos from Sony's and from Canon and looking at their footage, because obviously we're a broadcast content creator, I'd say. But yeah, so for video, let's say if you want to go with video, which one would you go for? Alpha 1, Canon R5, or A7S Mark III, and why?
Just from what I've seen, I'd probably just go A7S Mark III.
Yeah. Back when A7S Mark III, like 7 months ago now, and R5 was released, I just never understood what was the argument there. Like, okay, when R5 was released, right, I was super pumped. I was like, oh my god, this is a biggest breakthrough of the decade in cameras and everything. But then when A7S arrived, I was like, you know what, we don't really need 8K footage. And what's the point of having an 8K raw C-log when you can only film it for 20 minutes, and then you have to wait about half an hour to an hour depending on, like, your environment temperature? I would rather have 4K that's really amazing and on continuous shooting than 8K or even 4K on an R5, by the way. So there's two 4Ks on R5. One of them, it's good 4K, and one of them is just standard 4K. So on the good one, the camera shoots at 8K, but then compresses it downscaled it to 4K, and so you're gonna end up with the same 20-minute recording limit, and I don't like that. And that's something with A7S Mark III. They only have one 4K option, so it's really simple to use. And it's really amazing, no overeating issues or anything. So in my opinion, I would have gone with A7S Mark III until Sony released the Alpha 1. And that's because it's a hybrid camera, and I love it. 8K video without overheating. That's something Canon... I don't know why they managed to, like, release a camera.
I think Canon just overshot it. So, like, I think looking back at old videos, because when I'm looking at, like, older models that I might pick up,
yeah,
everyone always says, like, oh, Sony have an issue with basically overshooting, put too many specs in the cameras, not waiting until they've got it perfect, and then putting it out, and then you get overheating. But Canon, they always say Canon don't do that.
Not anymore, yeah.
And it's always hilarious in hindsight because it looks like Canon have just gone, shit, Sony's are good, let's just put 8K. And it's like, they fucked it.
But then now, look at Sony now. I think they took like 7-8 months, but they come up with a camera that's actually, I'd say, better than R5. I don't see the point of R5 anymore, let's be honest, when you have Alpha 1.
Like, I think R5 is going to be for people that are already stuck to Canon. Like, they've got so much stuff that it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to make a switch.
Photo first, and the most they will shoot is maybe a bit of, like, B-roll for a vlog.
But, bro, even possibly. For photo first, Alpha 1 has 50 photos per minute. Was it 50? Sorry, 30.
No, but I was saying, like, in relation, you know, when they brought out that and then the A7S3... Like, at that point, that's just like the...
Yeah.
It was the best photo camera that you could get out that was new. But now the Alpha one's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's as I said last episode, it's the Alpha.
Shut up. I'm pretty sure... Isn't it faster than... You said 15 frames per second. I think you can get...
Sorry, no, yeah, I said 50 accidentally. I meant 50 megapixel. But it can do up to 30 frames per second.
Yeah.
And that's like a video at this point. You can have raw video by just taking photos. I don't know how long it lasts for. So for example, my camera, it stops. It actually freezes completely. Do bear in mind, I'm talking about a camera that's about like 500 quid. It can do about 6 photos per second. And if you keep on holding the shutter button, it'll freeze after like 2 seconds because the processor can't handle it anymore. But with Alpha 1, they have like an internal storage as well. Everything to make sure it doesn't like break while using it. No overheating issues or nothing. So that's why I would go with Alpha 1. Resolution wise, 8K 30 frames per second. That's amazing. And if you want to go 120 frames per second, you'll go to 4K, and that's a good 4K as well. And if you want to do 240 frames per second, you'll go to 1080p. Do you know what I mean by the way, if I say a good 1080p versus a bad 1080p?
Well, yeah, I've seen, because I saw on I think it was an R5 versus A7sIII, like their 4K on the Sony is a lot better than the Canon 4K.
Isn't it? Yeah, I've noticed that as well. But no,
I don't know the exact reasons why and all the Gerald Undone nerdiness into it.
Yeah, without actually going into a lot of details. But I mean, like, with 240 frames per second, I watched official clips from Sony and official clips from Canon. Canon one kind of looked like they were shot from my camera, actually. And it makes sense why, because obviously when you increase the frames per second, there's far more hard work for the camera to do. Sony Alpha's 240 frames per second looks far better on 1080p than Canon's R5. So at the end of the day, without being like a Sony fanboy, because apparently that's a thing, I feel like there's no point in buying Canon at this point unless you have all the Canon lenses in the world and your full setup is Canon and you can't really make a move. Then sure, that's your best option out there. But if you're starting new like me, actually, because I want to invest into like a bigger setup eventually, and I would definitely go with Alpha 1. It just doesn't make sense to go with R5. It will actually future-proof you as well. I think this camera is going to last for like next 5 to 10 years. No doubt.
I want to say 10 years because just how quick everything moves.
Well, think about it. The one I use, it's about 6-year-old now, and it's still relevant. And it's like 500 quid camera. Back then, apparently, it was like 900 quid. It might go like obviously cheaper in prices, but I think for what it can do, it's definitely like future-proofed for quite some time. And do bear in mind, you are paying a lot of price. I think it's about like £6,000 or £7,000 in the UK.
Yeah, it's like cinema camera level.
Yeah.
Like it's more expensive than like a C200 or
Yeah. So I would assume, and I would as a consumer, I would like it to last for quite a while. Like obviously there'll be like Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and I'm really keen to see what they will bring on the new setup. But yeah, I think it should last between 5 to 10 years, not without any.
I hope it lasts 10 years. Then I might actually be able to pick it up and afford it.
After 10 years, the price going down to 500 quid.
When I'm 30, I'll invest in it.
Do you think, actually, by the way, we're hitting a brick wall at this point when it comes to quality? Because you can only see so many pixels or like so much resolution, right? I don't see.
I think a while ago, to be fair, you hit the point where it's like for YouTube, I think they've already passed the amount of quality that you can actually get out of a camera.
Innit? It's like I like what they're doing. Like you have more freedom in the editing room, but I'm just confused. What will Alpha 2 or Alpha 5 in the next 10, 15 years will have? It's just like I think one area that we need to improve on. Actually, it just clicked to me. One area that we need to improve on in camera industry is low light performance. Again, I haven't seen apart from A7S Mark III. There's barely any cameras that can do really well in low light.
No, A7S too. That's a good shout. Just any of the A7S. Sony Alpha range is just so...
Yeah.
Because I use the A7, and the difference between that, which is like... How much is it now? It's not much. Compared to my 80D, which is actually like... I think it's a few years more recent. It just destroys the Canon. And it's like... I got told like I should go to Sony for the low light, and now I'm like, right, I've had my Canon for 5-6 months or whatever.
By the way, a lot of people will be getting triggered by this.
Mistake.
We are not Sony fanboys. I remember when A7S3 came out, and I was talking like a lot about him, and people were just saying, "Oh yeah, you're just a Sony fanboy."
I've only ever had Canon. Like everything I've got right now, I've got 2 Canon FD lenses. I've got a 50mm and I've got a kit lens, but it's all Canon.
I loved Canon. Guess why?
Peter McKinnon.
Yes.
Slept with your poster of Peter McKinnon in your bedroom.
Because
with a Canon headband on.
So I was thinking of getting like a Canon. What was it? Canon R? EOSR?
EOSR.
Yeah. But then that was obviously out of my budget. No, actually, it was in my budget. But then I realised I should rather invest into a gimbal and a camera. I don't know why I made this decision, because now thinking back to it, it did have IBIS, didn't it? So...
I regret getting my gimbal, 100%.
Do you?
I regret it so much. I don't know why I've got a gimbal.
I don't use mine as much, but when I need to use it, I'm so glad that I have a gimbal. Just because, actually, my camera doesn't have any sort of stabilization. You can buy a stabilized lens, but those lenses are really expensive.
Oh, for Canon as well, it adds it up a lot. That's why another reason I want to move to Sony, because in-body stabilization in the A7 III. Because I was also looking at have you seen the A6400 range, like A6000?
Yeah.
The only thing stopping me getting that is the fact it doesn't have in-body stabilization.
IBIS,
Otherwise, I could save myself a few £100.
You do have like weird artifact, by the way, with IBIS. But that's something Alpha 1 fixes. It's because of their fastest... without, again, being super nerdy about it, because I don't even know myself, but somehow their processor processes each frame from the video quite fast. That means in IBIS, you don't get that weird artifact. But in A7S Mark III and even in R5, apparently you do have the wobbly effects on the corners of the screen. Because IBIS is just... It's like when you put a warp stabilizer from Premiere Pro. And you know how you get like these weird things on the corners?
I hate it.
Yeah, when you shake your camera too much, I think the processor can't handle it well. Or something. I don't know, again... But
to be fair, on the A7S III, I saw James Matthews' video on it. And he was shooting someone skateboarding. And he was doing a lot of movements and stuff. And with the rolling shutter, I think there was a lot of improvements to it. I couldn't see any shaking there. Like, you're a bit weird if you're going like this. Like, you've got a bit of an issue.
But I mean, again, at the end of the day, those two cameras, I think, have obviously not one of the best, but like they're up there with best IBIS and everything. But yeah, you had a question for me, Greg, didn't you?
Yeah, so when you were talking about these new cameras and everything, and I know how much you were a fan of specs and 120 frames per second at 4K. If you had to name 3 attributes, that can be physical, software, anything, about a camera for your ideal camera, what would those 3 aspects be?
As I've been going on about for the past half an hour, low light performance, number 1, has to be up there. Right. Just because my camera is horrible at stabilization, I'm gonna say an amazing IBIS, and I'm gonna nick it from Alpha 1 again. And have you ever heard MKBHD going on about how he loves detail in his videos?
I do not watch him that much. I used to, but no.
He was one of the first YouTubers who invested so much in his camera gear because he could actually see details in the video. Do you know how like we're like, oh, there's no difference between 4K or like 8K and 4K?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who actually can tell, and I don't like it, by the way, because every video annoys me because I'm like, oh, I wish this was 4K, or I wish this was at least 1080p. But then there's a lot of people out there who don't even care when it's 720p. So in my perfect camera, I would have low light performance, stabilization, and a good, at least 4K resolution. Sharpest image you've ever seen in a camera. That would be my dream setup. Yeah, what about you? Have you thought of something?
So I'm always torn because I'm wanting to keep my options open for photo, video, but because I think I'm swaying over to video, I think my specs would be kind of towards that.
Okay.
I wouldn't be too... I'm not going to say like 6K or anything like that. like 4K would be fine. So I'm going to go with good IBIS.
Okay.
So I'm going to steal that one from you.
Go ahead.
Because I'm not saying it's a brand, I think I'm going to go with the camera mount for the lenses that I like the most. And I'll go with RF lens mount. Because those lenses are a bit naughty. And the third one, I cannot think of a third one. It is spaced from my head. Oh,
go on.
Loads of customizable options, like any of the Sony.
True. If I would have to add one more thing, I'd say if there's something better than 10-bit color depth, because I am so annoyed at 8-bit. I actually didn't know. I didn't know about color depth or anything before I bought that camera. It's only when I started editing my video and I was like, why is just when I change the colors, why is it just not as good as this creator or this guy? And then on a Facebook group, they were like, yeah, it's just because you got 8-bit camera, mate. I was like, okay, so I need to invest into a 10-bit camera. But if there's something far bigger than 10-bit, I would get that in my dream camera, because
I might be wrong, but I think cinema cameras, so like the Sony FS7,
right?
Is it 12-bit?
Because it goes.
I think even some of the Sonys might be 12-bit. I might be wrong there.
People will be getting angry over this because I just don't know, honestly. By the way,
I know fuck all. I'm just.
You know, I'm gonna actually quickly search this.
I'm looking it up already.
12-bit 12-bit color depth. Let's see if that is a thing.
I'm just getting TVs.
Color depth of 30, 36, and 48 bits per pixel are in. No, that's 16 bits per RGB. I don't know. I mean, people apparently like BBC and all them, like they use 8-bit, and I don't get how. Like, I get it. Like at the same time,
it's because they're not doing anything crazy.
They're not manipulating the colors.
But to be fair, have you seen Make Art Now, Josh Yeo?
What? Sorry?
Have you seen Make Art Now YouTube channel?
No.
He's this guy called Josh Yeo, and he did this kind of matrix edit to his footage, and he turned it like purple. He was using like just shifting the hues and everything.
Oh, okay.
And he did that with the A7 III, which is 8-bit color. So I saw that and I was like, well,
I don't get how. Like, my camera can only do good enough color grading when it has like a lot of light. And especially when I'm shooting on a flat profile, and if I actually overexpose the image by like something like 1 stop or something, it can handle color grading. I think it's mostly because shadows are the one that actually are pain in the backside when it comes to color grading 8-bit. But yeah, I just want to get the dynamic range and 10-bit editing abilities. Yeah, so that's pretty much our topic of the day. Well, not topic of the day, sorry, first topic of the day about cameras. So one thing I want to add in this podcast is opinions. So I'm gonna bring one topic or one subject every episode, and I just want to ask what your opinion are on it. And the first one is clarity slider.
Oh, good one.
By the way, my camera stopped recording. Just have a look if.
Mine is still going.
Alright, sweet. So clarity sliders, yes.
Right. So you're asking my opinion on it?
Yeah. So shall I start first?
Yeah, you go for it.
So clarity sliders, I love it when I edit my photos with a bit.
1 sec, my camera stopped.
Oh. So yeah.
There we go.
I like editing photos with clarity, but only when I like add just a touch of it. But then there's people who think it's okay to grab the sliders and push it all the way to 100. Like, okay, art is subjective, but come on. Is it only me, or I might be like a bit aggressive here? Because you have those HDR edits, right? And they look in my opinion, by the way, they might be like the best thing for you in the world, but in my opinion, they look horrendous. You just push this clarity slider all the way to the 100. Would you agree with me on this one?
I think it's just the same with a lot of editing. Like, normally I go with the belief of like less is more. So I know with my sport photography and stuff, the only stuff I'll really do is I'll make the colours a tiny bit more saturated.
Okay.
And I add a tiny bit of clarity because it makes everything seem a tiny bit sharper.
When you have like
however,
yeah,
there is sport photographers that some of them I actually really like them in certain moments, like
okay,
and they turn the clarity up quite high.
Quite high.
Well, I think you see it a lot in like MMA and boxing. If you just search on Instagram one of those hashtags, every image you'll see
worst combination
looks weird.
Worst combination is desaturated, maximum sharpness, maximum clarity, and maximum shadows. Have you noticed that as well? So, do you even know which sort of photo I'm talking about? I might just put some photos here on the YouTube.
You talk about just like when someone turns something black and white and just thinks, oh, because it's black and white, I can turn up all
it's
of
not
the
even black and
clarity.
white. Like, you see the colors, but it's so desaturated and it's like over sharpened, over clarified, and it's so annoying. My rule of thumb is, if I notice someone, like if I can tell someone is using a clarity, then I'm like, you shouldn't have used clarity. But when I don't notice it, that means it must have been done well, if that makes sense. It's like saying, in any film or something, if you can tell a shot has been produced in a certain way, normally that's a bad thing. If the viewer can't...
But I think that comes with... So you're saying about if you notice it's a bad thing, but I know from my experience, when you're doing something more, getting more experience and stuff, you can pick up more stuff.
Oh yeah, so that's true. Yeah.
I think it's more. I think that rule of thumb is when the audience are looking at something and they go, "Oh, something's up here."
Fair, yeah, actually, because
so
I think
like you'll get like a lot of fan pages and stuff of football teams, MMA fighters, or whatever. They just love it. So I think in that case, then it's fine. But if you were maybe showing something to someone that's more experienced, they're going to be able to pick up things. Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you can see it, there's something wrong with it. But there's a level of just being a bit less obvious with putting it to the max, unless that's like a style that you want to do.
I agree. But it just pisses my boy. it just boils my piss. It just boils my piss off. Yeah, I'll send you later what I mean by the way, because and I'll put it on the YouTube video as well. What I mean by that. But clarity is a big no for me if I can tell. But again, as you said, the end consumer, they might not even care about it. For them, it's just a really amazing photos. Have you noticed like people do that in car photography as well?
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at any page, but when I used to follow the pages now, looking back, like all of the pictures were just.
I am
that.
Like I'm actually guilty of doing that for my first 2 photos, but I'm gonna be a bit gentle with myself here. It was only because the photos from initially the photos without editing, they weren't sharp at all. And bear in mind, I was just taking digitally zoomed in photos from my phone of like snails, of like random stuff in my back garden. And then I would just go to my Lightroom mobile and then crank the clarity slider to like 80 or 90 just to bring back like some sort of sharpness. But the one I'm on about, they're like HDR, clarified, over sharpened photos. And I personally, it just pisses me off. I don't like them. But yeah, second topic of the podcast was music for your videos. I'm going to start off with saying, what service do you use, Greg?
As you know, I use Artlist.
Yes, he uses Artlist, and I'm going to say because of James Matthew, right?
Yep.
And I use Epidemic Sound because of Peter McKinnon.
And Matty Hapoya, and Daniel Schiffer,
and every other YouTuber out there. No, okay, so I like Epidemic Sound because apart from their amazing tracks, I mean, it just feels like they're sponsored us or something. But I like Epidemic Sound because they kind of support creators. I've seen a lot of sponsored videos from Artlist, but I haven't seen Artlist actually flying out 100 creators and having like some sort of festival going on, or like sending multiple creators to like Antarctica or something. But Epidemic Sound have been doing that. They did with Peter McKinnon, like fair, like he's like the biggest, I'm guessing, photography guy on YouTube. So fair, but like if I talk about people like Hayden Pedersen, I don't know if you heard of him, or or No Borders.
I already know. Yeah, they're all from that little Australian group of yeah.
They back then, I think they had about 100k subs or 90k subs. But Epidemic Sound actually flew them to Las Vegas or something in the US, and they were part of this festival, and they've been sponsored 3 times now. Second time it was like another competition. They flew out someone from America to Australia to hang out with the boys for like 2 weeks, and his name was like Joseph Gracia. I've actually had a chat with him as well, locally one day on Insta, and then third time, Corona hit, but obviously, so they can't do anything now. But they've been like doing a lot for the creators. That's why I really like Epidemic Sound. And technically, they have one of my favorite creators. I don't know how to say his name. Is it double O and double Y? How would you pronounce that? Oi.
I'm not even gonna try.
He's like oi. But yeah, he's amazing at what he does. Have you heard of the track called Ganja?
Yes, it's the one that is used in every
B-roll. Like do. That was a horrible impression. But anyway,
clipping that up.
And in general, the brand seems cool, in my opinion. It's just, I don't know, every time I think of Epidemic Sound, I'm going to say they've done their marketing the right way. And with Artlist...
Yeah, I'd say the reason you are liking them
is because their marketing, yeah.
They have trendier marketing. But the one thing I do like with Artlist, because I spoke to you at first and I was like, oh, kind of regretting my decision of not going Epidemic Sound, because you can kind of split the track up and everything and just a bit more features to it. But, correct me if I'm wrong, there's different levels of subscriptions, right? So there's one way you can just put it on personal use. Yeah. And then you have to pay more for, like, so I think, commercial use.
I think it's like below certain figure on YouTube. I think if you've got less than 10,000 subscribers, it's like $9.99, just like your Spotify and Apple Music. Yeah. But if you wanna go with the commercial freelancer, that's $240 per year or 40 quid a year. So 40 quid a month.
See, that's already like more. See, I thought, because I was comparing the prices, but I didn't pick up on the fact of, if I want to use this commercially, which is all that I'm using it for at the moment, because I've been thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but haven't, so it doesn't matter. But the only time I've used music is for jobs, so I'd need the commercial one anyway. So the fact that Artlist does, like, I think their marketing line is one subscription for like everything. So that works actually for me.
Wait, so how much is it for like? Is it monthly or annually?
I paid annually. I got 2 months free, so I got 14 months for 150 quid.
Oh wow!
I think it's like 200 odd euros.
Oh, that's actually quite cheap. Because I think it's like 240 on Epidemic Sound, but that's full commercial only. What I tend to do, if a client is looking for, so it depends on the budget, right? So if they are super tight on the budget, then I use YouTube Music Library. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've actually heard someone talk about it today.
Yeah, so the issue with that is the tracks aren't as good, and it makes sense why, because the creators aren't getting paid for their music. But the good thing is they have like a huge library with all the free tracks, and you can use them for any purposes whatsoever. It's quite hard to find a good track, I'm not gonna lie, but if your client is on a tight budget, I use their services. Otherwise, I actually ask my clients either to pay 40 quid or 30, and then I'll put my 10 quid from myself, and I'll get like a monthly 1 month access for commercial purposes. So they get their track, they get their music and everything, and I have a free 1 month access to Epidemic Sound to do whatever I want.
So that's quite a lot. Like if charging 40, 50 quid for a month, at that point, it's getting to the point where you may as well just license a song from anywhere anyway. Because
but then they do.
So what I do is I just charge on the invoice. I add a tenner.
Oh, okay.
And that way it keeps it cheap. Oh, I'm a bad person. My phone was not on silent. It keeps it cheap, so then it's never been an issue. I've actually had my first client that I used it on. I was like, I'm going to send you over all the licenses, and the price will just be on the invoice. And she was like, how much will it be? I was like, £10. She went, that's great.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a repeat job from that because it turned out a lot cheaper than she thought it'd be.
How I decide if they're gonna be happy with me charging 40 quid is if they were initially happy with my quotes. So I had this case where the guy was like, I want you to do an entire day behind the scene. We're releasing this brand. We're gonna go to these rappers. We're going to distribute our clothes, blah, 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 and you are just there to shoot behind the scene, and we're going to put together an epic montage. And I was like, really cool. Yeah, all together, mate, that'll be about 900 to something, depending on
Jeez,
how many
you're expensive.
Yeah, no, he wanted me to drive to London with him in my own car.
Oh, right.
So fuel, food, that's the first thing. And then an entire day shooting. And then the final result he wanted was about 10-minute video out of it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, well, to start things over, 900 quid, but it depends how long you want me to stay there, how long you want my camera to be rolling, and it can go up to 1.5. And he was like, my budget is 150 quid. And I was like,
see, if it was local, that would be absolutely fine for me.
Yeah.
At this point.
What I do, though, by the way, which is right, I actually suggest a lot of people to do that. So, I've heard a lot of other people from the same industry when the clients say, we only have 150 for the budget, rather than sometimes accepting that. Because, for example, if my price is £250 for 10 photos, and they'll be like, sorry, our budget is 150, rather than saying, okay, I actually just say, okay, we'll do 150, but I'll only be able to do 5 photos, for 150. And then they start saying, okay, then if we increase the price to 200, how much would that be? And I'm like, 7 photos. By the way, this is just an example. I don't obviously charge 200 quid for 7 photos. But, I don't let my value go down. Just because okay, I'm not gonna lie, I've got ego issues, right? Help me, Greg. I've got ego issues.
I know you do. We've talked about this.
Help me. But it's just that I don't really want them to realize, okay, I'm willing to work for any money. It just kind of lets your value down. So I have
what
this
I'd
principle.
personally say is it. At the point we're at, we're open with the fact that we're starting off, building up, and we're dummies. But so I only started a few months ago, so I'm valuing my portfolio and trying to get a job after I graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So the jobs that I've had that I'm like, right, I can use this on my portfolio, be looking professional,
right,
and it's been way below what I'd charge or what I'd want. I've taken it because it's gone on my portfolio. And at this point, that's kind of priceless. But the jobs where I've been talking to someone and they're not willing to give up creative control at all, and they're wanting to pay 50 quid for a music video that I don't even have creative control over, and their vision is not good in terms of it won't be any value. I won't want to put it anywhere. Then I'm going to say no. I think last night I had a message from someone saying, would we be able to collaborate on a fashion shoot?
Okay.
For anyone listening, I just used air quotes because collaborate apparently means, I don't want to pay anything. And I'm like, right, I'm busy at the moment, so I'm not going to be able to do anything for free. But really, it's the fact that I don't need a fashion shoot on my portfolio right now.
I agree.
But if I did, I'd be offering work for free to try and get it.
I think same goes for me. So I actually don't know right now what niche I want to pursue. So a lot of people be telling me you're good with fashion, and that's only because I've done the Sidemen videos and the Ill Vision one, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's sick, bro. You should actually really do fashion. That's your strongest point." But then my counter argument would be, yeah, but like I haven't tried other things out. What if I like, I don't know, food? What if I like cars, shoot, and like racing and stuff? So I know I have to like test it out, and I can't because of COVID right now. But when I will find out what is it that I want to pursue, niche wise, I think then and only then I would say, okay, if this is clothing related, I'll be willing to do it for free, mate, as long as I get good portfolio piece out of it. But if it's like something completely unrelated to what I do, like food or I don't know, something else, then I would actually be stubborn about my prices as of right now. So just because I haven't got the idea what I want to pursue, that's why whoever comes to my door, I'll just say, yep, these are my prices. Hire me if you want to, otherwise get out. Yeah, and yes,
See,
I do have ego issues.
For me, the main reason I've only really turned down, I think, 2 or 3 shoots in the last few months, and the main reason is I've got uni work, I've got portfolio work that I'm working on that I want to try and get out. So, but if I didn't have anything to do, like you're working on a project right now, so that's another probably reason why you wouldn't take anything that you don't really want to do.
True. Bro,
but if I didn't have time, like, take the work, because even if it's not something you want to get into, that day of shooting, you could learn. Might mess something up. Realistically, like with me, the most I've learned is when I've messed something up completely. I've messed up my exposure. I've forgot to record anything. So even if it's not something you want on your portfolio, like, it would actually be worth it.
I actually had that experience. Like, so there was this one shoot. I'm not gonna name who it was with because they might be listening. Hi. But he was forcing me to come to this shoot with him, and I was like, yeah, but this is not really my type of a sport-related shoot. And I was like, you know what? Okay, let's actually go. It might be worth for the experience. Went there, and I actually learned how to communicate with the client the right way. Because normally I would just go to the shoot, say hi, blah blah, this is this, blah blah, and then I would just start doing my thing, without talking to them, without being interacting. And I thought they would prefer the same. The client would prefer the same, and they would want me to do my work without talking to them. But in reality, when I went out with that guy to do this shoot, I realized the client is actually wanting you to talk first, and I've been using his skills, his small talks now, and it actually works. At the start, you can tell like the clients are a bit shy to like open up to you, but then when you actually start doing small talks and everything, they actually become friendly, and that possibly leads to want to hire you again. I've noticed that. So, I'd say, again, at the beginning stages, it is ideal to pick as many jobs as possible. But I've got ego issues, so I'm like struggling with this.
Do you want to tell your story about that you told me where did you talk about this on the last podcast, how your pricing strategy was at the start, how you didn't want to do free work because...
Yes.
I can't remember what it was.
So, so I thought, because I've spent like 500 quid on my camera and a lot on my gimbal and all this, and I thought it was just stupid to even reach out to me. Bro, I was even like, a lot of the YouTubers were like, oh, do this, do that, and I just didn't want to listen to them because I thought that was copying. As I said, I have huge ego issues. So, it was like, oh yeah, do you want to call up with this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, but my equipment costs this much. This is how much it will cost for lighting. This is how much it will cost for this. Blah blah blah. And I just didn't do any free work whatsoever. But then one mate of mine was like, well, how are you going to grow your portfolio then? If you want to hire a photographer for your own Instagram shoot, for example, something as horrible as just an Instagram photo, you want to see their portfolio. And how you're going to get portfolio is just by doing free work. And that's when it clicked to me. I was like, you know what, mate? You're right. And that's when I started reaching out to a lot of food places. This is when I did I think I could say the name, Soul Food shoot. They were actually super friendly. They were like, oh yeah, you need to build a portfolio. That's amazing. We were looking for photographers as well. And just come and join us. They gave me free food as well, which was really nice. But I didn't like doing free work at the start, but as it turns out,
I think the best one when you're doing free work is to ask professional, like if you want to go into photography or anything. Like I asked this guy, Russ Williams, who used to work at McCann Agency in Manchester. They're like a marketing agency. And I was like, oh, if you're going on a shoot or anything, would you mind if I came along and just like helped out, carried shit, whatever? And he was like, yeah, come along. And he had something at, if anyone knows, Manchester Hatch on Oxford Road. And he was doing this personal project where he was kind of documenting different places, doing portraits of them. The pictures were unreal. And he was showing me his setup and everything. And when I was there, I got connected to a few people, talking to them. And I was like shooting behind the scenes and everything.
Oh, okay.
And good practice. And yeah, like you can use that stuff for your portfolio if you just ask them, like, how we had that shoot the other week, and if you're collaborating with another person, you can just like work together on it, and then you can both have the work for your portfolio.
I did get in touch with some people from I don't want to say names, but I got in touch with a production company from Salford. Yeah. They were saying how they run like skeleton crew right now, and it makes sense, COVID, and especially because of the fourth lockdown, they're pretty strict. I'm gonna start messaging. My strategy right now is, as soon as lockdown opens, I wanna offer free work again to all sorts of people to gain experience and realize what I wanna do and what not, and then reach out to other creators and see how they do things. Basically, steal their experience. And I want to do it with like multiple people. I said go in touch with one. They were like, yeah, as soon as lockdown goes off, you can work with us. You can shoot behind the scene for our own production companies, for our own social medias, which is sick. So hopefully, I think, do you know what? I'd say I would have been like in a far better of a place if lockdown wasn't here. Not only me, I think everyone, to be honest.
Nah, I'm the opposite.
Oh yeah, you actually started in lockdown, didn't you? Yeah.
That lockdown was the only reason I started, so been pretty good.
So I think I said in episode 1, I'm doing this thing with Princess Trust, and a lot of people are saying the reason they're actually thinking of doing a business now is because of lockdown. So yes, lockdown may have been like a lot of like a huge help for a lot of people, realizing they can make far more money with having their own business rather than working for someone else. But for me, I had the idea I want to work for myself, but then I wanted to reach out to people. I want to do this, I want to do that, but I just couldn't. Everything is off. Like as of right now, I can't ring people to let me shoot their food places for free because that's illegal right now. As long as you
can still go in and shoot, and because a lot of places are doing takeaway.
No, because it doesn't involve money legally, that's illegal. If that's why I'm trying to get like right now, whoever comes to my door, I'm like, yeah, pay me. Like I want to make everything official right now, so that at least I don't get fined 10k. But as soon as lockdown is over,
nobody's looking. It's fine.
It's fine. Sorry, Mr. I don't know, cop who's listening to this podcast. We haven't done anything illegal. Yeah, for legal reasons, this is a joke. But yeah, as soon as lockdown is over, hopefully everything starts kicking off again. I think that's pretty much it for today. Have you got anything else?
Yeah.
In your,
I think we hit the hour mark, didn't we?
Oh yeah, 54 minutes. Still got 6 minutes. Shit. No, but yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As I said before, check us out on, I've actually got a list here, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and Breaker. I don't know who uses Radio Public or Breaker, but we are on that platform as well. And yeah, we'll be uploading every Thursday, hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah, if you have any feedback or review as well, please do make sure you go to @production_by_production. Oh, production, is it produced?
Dummies.
I should know this.
Produced by Dummies.
Produced, yes. I know my podcast. @produced_by_dummies. And the link for that should be in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, with that all said and done, we shall see you on next Thursday. All right.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Goodbye. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Kisses. Bye.